I don't know. It wouldn't surprise me in the sense that I don't trust games of the year anymore. Ever since Ghost of Tsushima lost, I'm like, this is all just a big pat yourself on the back for the gaming industry and journalists. And a lot of times, the gaming media does not align with the gaming as a whole.
Welcome back. It's me today. I want to thank Antoine so much for covering the last few weeks, and he'll probably have to continue depending once my computer's back how it sounds. But for today, while I'm on my MacBook, it is me. And today we've got lots of stories going on. As always, gaming never stops. And I thought today Adam can tell us what is happening with, oh my God, I want to say Life by You for some reason. It's not that.
Sackboy was the unofficial mascot of PlayStation for a while back on the PS3 and a little bit to an extent the PS4, but now he seems to have been replaced with Astrobot. But the Little Big Planet games were all about it was a platformer, and the big sell was that you could create your own levels and you could share them online, and then other people could play your levels. And so it was all about community and putting all these things together. But unfortunately, the servers kept getting attacked with DDoS attacks, and there were people going on there and exploiting bans to ban other players and things like that. And they were just having all these server problems. So back in 2021, they shut down all the servers for everything Little Big Planet, with the exception of Little Big Planet 3. And then earlier this year, they even shut down Little Big Planet 3. So all those community levels are just gone forever. But that's not what we're talking about today. Today, what we're talking about is actually Little Big Planet 3 is about to be gone forever. So Sony came out recently and they announced that as of October 31st, they are going to be delisting Little Big Planet 3 and you will never be able to buy it again. Now, if you already own Little Big Planet 3, and that's either because you bought it or because it was available as one of those free games with PlayStation Plus for a while, if you've grabbed it at any point during that time, then you can download it as much as you want in the future. No problem there. Same with any DLC that you already own. You'll be able to re download in the future whenever you want. But if you don't have it by October 31st, then there will be no way to acquire it in the future. So it will only exist for people that already have the game. So if you have not played Little Big Planet 3 and you really want to play, you need to get it now because by the end of the month, it's going to be gone forever. And that's it. It's going to be gone. So this is a follow up to what we were talking about last week with game preservation. And you don't necessarily own your games. Now, in this case, you can still get it if you've bought it. But yeah, it's just not going to be available for new people ever again. Now, this does have some people thinking maybe it's not being taken down forever. Maybe this is similar to the Horizon Zero Dawn thing where when they released the what do you call it, the Horizon Zero Dawn remaster, then they took down the original and then made the remaster the definitive version of the game. So some people are thinking maybe they're going to do that. Maybe they want to re-release Little Big Planet on Steam like they have been with other games, and they just want one definitive version across all platforms. But I've only heard people saying that as wishful thinking. I have not seen anything to suggest that's what's happening. It really does look like Little Big Planet 3 is just going to be taken down and gone forever. Unfortunate, but to be honest, the game has been pretty dead for a while. Once they took down the servers and people couldn't get access to the community levels anymore, then the magic was lost and there was no way to get it back. So I can understand why they would do it, but why delist it entirely? I don't know. It is an odd choice, but
I think it's such a cute art style, and it's a shame it was replaced by Astrobot. And I understand the allure of Astrobot, bright, shiny. And again, for a lot of people who got a PS5, I can think for at least for Adam, and I always hear like students say, "Oh, what do you like to do on the weekend?" As a typical like English question. What do you do every day? And it's the common question is, I play Switch. And how do you spell Switch? Or I play PS5. How do you spell PS5? It's just like it sounds PS5. Students always ask me in my one English class a week. So I think there's so many of the new generation that just for them Astrobot is the thing and it makes sense in a way. But delisting sucks. Replacing games sucks. Little Big Planet, not like I've played it, but Adams has always talked about it. Go back. many episodes. Our podcast, the audio version, is still available online. You can go check that out. You can listen to many episodes, at least a good 2 hours of Adam talking about it. I think back to all the shows of him talking about Little Big Planet. Yeah, that sucks.
And you know that the latest Astrobot game has a strong ticket to be GOTY 2024. You know
Do you
that?
guys think it'll actually become? I don't think it'll be Game of the Year. It's
Yeah.
too niche. Like just on PlayStation.
No, I don't think it'll be game of the year. I don't
Ah,
know. It wouldn't surprise me in the sense that I don't trust games of the year anymore. Ever since Ghost of Tsushima lost, I'm like, this is all just a big pat yourself on the back for the gaming industry and journalists. And a lot of times, the gaming media does not align with the gaming. Was it the gaming as a whole?
community.
They are a very niche subset of gamers. And so they typically, if you took gamers as a big mass, basically, they would be a very small subset of it, and they have very strict things that they look at, like the artistic design and stuff like that. They're not looking at sometimes like the difficulty or gameplay or things like that. And so because the way gaming media and game awards are so entrenched in gaming media, which is why you'll often see whoever wins is not the player's choice. The player choice award almost never goes to who ends up winning. I wouldn't be surprised if it did win, but I don't think it should.
That's my bet. Astrobot in front of Black Myth Wukong because they'll never let a Chinese game win.
Yeah, exactly. Backman through Kong will not win either because I don't even think it's nominated. If I had to guess, I would say Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is going to win.
No.
But and I think if Final Fantasy VII Rebirth released now closer to the Game Awards, I think it would be a shoe-in because there is a lot of recency bias and it was very early on in the year. But the fact that it's such a big contender still, I would put Final Fantasy VII Remake Rebirth as probably who's going to win. But I think Astrobot will be nominated. So
All right. Speaking of news and nominations and things, what is happening in the Xbox? What is happening in the Xbox world, Antoine?
Let's focus on Xbox and Game Pass. So, very exciting event coming this week on October 17, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. It's the Xbox Partner Preview. So, all these games which are made by third party Xbox titles. And on this event, which will last exactly 25 minutes, so it's a very short event, but please don't miss it because lots of content is going to be pulled out. So we'll have a dozen new trailers, which will include at least these three: Alan Wake 2 DLC, so like House. More exciting, Like a Dragon, Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii. That's going to be fun. And Chunk Fallen Feather, which I thought would be some kind of Xbox Black Myth Wukong, but apparently from what I saw, it's closer to a Sekiro, so it's not technically exactly the same. But it's also a Chinese game since Black Myth Wukong has been so great. Who knows? Maybe they're gonna ride on its coattail and do some great sales as well. Maybe keep an eye on this one. Also, they're gonna be revealing some multiple world premieres, which include titles which will be available on Game Pass. And talking about Game Pass, two news. Not really news because you already know that, but on the same day, MechWarrior 5 Clan, which is a sequel of MechWarrior 5 Mercenaries, is being released on the same day. And of course, on October 25, well, if you could answer me, I'm sure you would tell me Call of Duty. Exactly, yes. On October 25, Black Ops 6 is coming day one on Xbox Game Pass Ultimate on console and PC Game Pass Classic for PC gamers. So that's a great news from Game Pass. Make sure not to miss it. Plenty of excitement, plenty of announcement. Very likely we're gonna talk about some of these announcements in next week weekly quest. And please, in the comments, tell me which game or which trailer excites you the most. So, what do you think about this news?
Yeah, have you guys watched the Call of Duty? Call of Duty's done this big marketing push. It's all over Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts. It's that famous Russian actor,
Oh, yeah.
Russian American actor that he's doing the yeah. You guys should spend more time watching short content. Now, yeah, MechWarrior. I don't know. Did you guys play the last MechWarrior? Because I played it with my younger brother, and it was hard, really hard. I loved it. It was fun, but it is just it was so difficult that it was just like this is not really fun. I was just it was too difficult for me. I think.
No, I haven't played the Mech Warrior in a long
Okay.
time.
Yeah. So this week, if you're a Netflix person, you might have seen Tomb Raider dropped on Netflix globally. I would assume it is an anime and it features Haley Atwell or Altwell. I can never remember how to pronounce her last name. She's the lady from Agent Carter. You might have seen her in some of the Marvel movies as well. She played the female Captain America in Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, as a British Captain America. She is the voice of Tomb Raider or Lara Croft in the TV show. The TV show has just received like very middling reviews. People are like, it's not that great. But again, this is from my perspective. Adam and Anton would definitely disagree. Is as somebody who just watches TV and turns their brain off and doesn't really care about the story, it's just, oh, cool, action, fighting, gunshots, some semblance of a story. Okay, that works for me. So I enjoyed it a lot. It released, I think, on the weekend or last week, Friday. So with that being released, all the games are currently on sale, like the recent new games and even the old games. So you can get the last three games, which the first one was 2018, I believe, or 2017, for 500 Taiwanese dollars. Again, the Taiwanese is Steam price. This might be different for Canada or US. But so that would be about $20, under $20 for all three games. I played all three games. I finished the recent Tomb Raiders 1 and 2. The third one, I think I got a little bit tired of, especially the puzzling and the jumping, because I remember I was at this part in the game. I was in an ice cave and I had to jump and grab onto a rickety wooden bridge. And I kept on jumping and then falling, and reload, and jump and fall, and reload. And after 5 times, I'm like, screw you, game, and then uninstall and move on to something else. That being said, they are fantastic games, a great sort of introduction into the franchise. If I just saw this on Reddit today while I was eating breakfast, like someone who played games in the 90s and then stopped for 10, 15 years, and they're like, I want to get back into gaming again. Where should I start? It's a nice, affordable franchise. The game looks good. The engine runs well. So it's still going to be a pretty game. It's still going to be something like if you haven't bought a new computer like the three of us, this is still a game that's going to run on your 7, 8, 9 year old computer. And then if you like to play, like binge play games, I don't know if that's an expression or not, this is an option for that. So, but like I mentioned though, this is a mix of action, it's a mix of puzzle, it's a mix of platforming. If you like bows and arrows, this is wonderful. All the games use this a lot of arrow and bow action and stealth play and that sort of stuff. I'm not a big fan of stealth, but definitely if you watch the TV show or you're watching the Netflix show, like a middle-aged game and haven't quite finished, and you want to play the games, now you have an option of going to play them on Steam. I'm sure they're probably on sale in other places as well, though I didn't have time to check for today's show. But definitely check out wherever you buy your games. I'm sure the Switch probably has an old Tomb Raider sale on there as well, because I know the old Tomb Raiders are available on the Nintendo Switch. And yeah, wonderful news. I hope they make a second season of Tomb Raider, though given the reviews, and sometimes what Netflix counts as its metric, which is like total minutes watched, is another story, but I hope it gets a second season.
I've only
Oh,
seen memes
oh, how bad are the memes?
online.
Or how good are the memes?
Some of them are funny. Have you seen the one I linked it in our Discord about where she says she has to visit the worst place in the world?
No, see, I don't have access to Discord anymore since
Paris.
I'm not using my computer. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, she's talking to this guy and she's, I need to go to the worst place in the world. And then it does this cut and it shows the Eiffel Tower and there's accordion music in the background. And it's just,
She's British, so fair game.
yeah, that's what people are saying is, yep, she's truly British.
That's
The worst
cool.
place in the world. So there's that one. Yeah, so there's that one. And then, of course, people were making fun of early on about, I guess there's a line early on where she says, we need to return all these artifacts to their indigenous populations or something like that. And people were like, your whole franchise has been about, you're literally called a Tomb Raider. Like, this goes completely against everything. So people were making fun of that. But yeah, basically all I've seen are memes.
No
So
worries.
I don't know anything about the show.
Yeah, in Canada, it's tough because it's coming right after a great animated story called Blue Eyed Samurai, which is really good. Do you want to watch Tomb Raider after this? Yes, I will, because it's Lara Croft and it's my childhood. I'm gonna check, but Coming up right after that, I'm not sure I'm gonna be very objective on the quality of the show.
All right. Speaking of objective, Adam, tell us about another digital rights story.
All right. So if you live in Australia, I'm sorry. Not because you live in Australia, nothing wrong with that, but because I got bad news for you. Yeah, I'm not Laura Croft dissing on the French here. This is just me being sorry because bad things are happening. So, if you've heard of a game, it's called Hotline Miami, and it's a top-down GTA clone. It's like the original GTA's, GTA 1 and 2, I think. And you run through and raid people's houses or whatever. But unfortunately, when Hotline Miami 2 came out in 2015, so this is a 10-year-old game. When it came out in 2015, then the Australian, what are they called? The Australian Board Classification Board. They refused to give it a classification, and their reasoning was visual depiction of implied sexual violence. And so they said, because of that, we're not going to rate the game. And without a rating, the game can't be released, right? It's a similar problem to what we had here in Taiwan with Wukong on PlayStation, right? It didn't have a rating, so it couldn't get released. And because of that, the game was impossible to get. You couldn't get it anywhere. You couldn't get it on Switch. You couldn't get it on Steam. Or you could get it on Steam, but the only way to do it was to buy the international keys off of something like G2A or something like that. And once you got the key, then you could insert the key into Steam and get the game that way. But you couldn't legally download it in directly off of Steam in Australia. But you could get it on PlayStation. So for whatever reason, there was some kind of mix up where PlayStation, I don't know, didn't get the memo or whatever, and they released the game. And that was the only way you could play it in Australia was on PlayStation. But apparently now, some 9 years later, nearly 10 years later, PlayStation got the memo and they were like, oh, oops, we shouldn't have released that game. And so what they're doing is they are now anybody who's bought the game is getting a refund and they are taking the game, they are delisting the game entirely. If you got the game for free off of PlayStation Plus, because apparently it was even available on PlayStation Plus for free at one point, then you're just going to lose access to it and that's it. So you are getting refunded. They say it could take up to 30 to 60 days to get that refund. But yeah, the game will be completely gone in Australia. There will be no way to play it on PlayStation anymore. So then your only way is to get a Steam key from another region, and then, or the international version, and then get it that way. And that's the only way. So I don't know. It's definitely bad news for people in Australia. It is a 10-year-old game, so I don't know how many people are still playing it. But yeah, so this is all about the what we talked about before with game preservation. You don't own anything, right? At any point, for whatever reason, they can take it away. This reason was technically a legal one. So I suppose in a sense that's better than them just arbitrarily saying we don't want this game to be available anymore. But still, anytime art is censored and inaccessible, sketchy in my book. I'm just going to say that. But it is what it is. So there we go.
But don't despair because right now you have a very good Hotline Miami like game called the Black Skylands. We talked about it way back when it was in early access, and it's an extremely good game. And I just checked on Steam and it's very positive. So if you like this kind of game, you can jump on this one.
Is it available in Australia though?
I think Australia is super famous for not being quite strict when it comes to regulation. And I follow a bunch of Australian YouTubers, and they always talk about how Australia sometimes over-regulates things. Or given that like Australia is really quite a liberal place when it comes to a bunch of different things that I won't talk about on this show, but but when it comes to video games and video game violence and franchises and like GTA and stuff, like they're like, yeah, man, this stuff is bad and it's rotting our mind. The old stuff that we grew up with in the 90s. Parents were like, yeah, your son didn't do well in school because he played too many video games, or know, he's aggressive because he played Doom at midnight for like 7 days. I don't know, but um, so it's yeah. Australia, I don't understand it because they just recently changed to a more liberal president or prime minister, I should say. But I have no idea what is going on with Australia. All right, and on that note, Antoine, what is your final story for today?
I'm gonna start with, I'm sure you may or may not know, Embracer Group, because they have been very famous in the headline last year for laying off a lot of people in the studios. They own a lot of studios. And unfortunately, this week, Cryptic Studios has been hit with yet another layoff. I think they had one last year, and again this year they are being hit. So if you're part of the Embracer Group, it's really not a good time to be a video game developer. Cryptic Studio, I want to talk about them for simply because they are experts in a free MMO RPG world. For instance, they are the one doing Champions Online, which I don't really know. Apparently, it's based on a board game. Star Trek Online, of course, and Neverwinter. Neverwinter Night was my one of my go game when I was a kid. And even if you're doing free MMORPG, it's kind of tough these days. And here come our weird transition, so stay with me. There has been a rumor floating around that, remember the big crash on Concord with Sony? They are actually reworking it and possibly re-releasing it as a free-to-play title. So we can talk about this later, but just to give you back a little bit of context, in case you didn't hear about this, but that would be surprising. This big, very big game, 8 years producing in the making, which cost nearly like $400 million and crashed within 2 weeks. Terrible sales, and after 2 weeks, Sony just say, "Okay, you know what? We're gonna refund you." So that's literally 8 years of development put in the bin, including the developers, right? Because what's the name of the studio who developed it? Fireworks Studios. So the team playing on Concord were made redundant, which is a polite way to say they got the boot. And Sony even pulled the game out of the storefront, so it's a really recent catastrophe for the AAA world of video game, right? And yet, on the Steam version, it's still receiving updates. It's a catastrophe, but Sony is still trying to find some ways to get a little bit of money back on it, on its investment. And that's where the free to play game rumor or idea is coming from. So there's nothing confirmed, of course, but that's something that we may see. So what do you guys think? That's my question. Do you think that if it comes out as a free to play, would can it come back from the dead? And with this, I have two examples. I have Fallout 76, which came out with horrible criticism and download on the long run really got its community back, right? So there's lots of people playing this. And another one which I know that Adam and I have played a lot, Final Fantasy XIV, the very first version has been extremely criticized. It was a catastrophe at launch, and even there was an official apology, and all the development team has been replaced. Then Real Reborn came out, and it's a massive success we know today. So I'm not saying that Concord is going to be a massive success because the Overwatch type of game for me has never been, like fantastic, and I don't think it's gonna be a yay Concord is here, woohoo! But do you think that they can leave the kind of scenarios that Fallout 76 got? Is that like from the media light, I would say, all the light they got because of the terrible start they got? Do you think that can play on the curiosity of people to buy this game on its release? Because just sorry, as a reminder from the reviews, the gameplay itself wasn't that bad. It was apparently a pretty solid game. They really crashed out on the design and marketing around the game. That's what destroyed the game. And I think I noticed somewhere, but they reached a peak of 697 concurrent player at once. Ooh. Yeah, no, that's ridiculous. So clearly, that's not necessarily the game is at fault, but really all the marketing around it. Yeah, what do you think? What do you guys think? Because I keep asking you the question, but I don't let you speak. So typical me.
Uh, I'd say I think it would have legs. I don't think it would ever reach Apex or Overwatch levels. Probably not even what's the new one? Deadlocked? Is that the one on Steam? I don't even think it would reach Deadlock levels. but I think it would at least have legs. I think maybe Fallout 76 is probably a good example in that it's a game. It would be a game that might be a slight revival, but it's really only the hardcore fans that are sticking around for it to the point where it survives and it does fine, but it's not competing with much larger games like the Final Fantasy 14s or the Overwatches or your Apex or Valorant or anything like that. So I think it would work, but I don't think it's ever going to be the huge, massive success story that obviously you would want it to be. So
I wanted to compare it to Fallout because I really feel like Ubisoft is following a Bethesda trend where they were fantastic 10 years ago, and slowly but surely they are crashing down, not renewing themselves.
yeah, now there's rumors of them switching their engine for what's it called, Elder Scrolls
Uh,
6.
yeah. There were even rumors saying that Tencent would buy Ubisoft if they really crash.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah. Apparently, this rumor doesn't have legs, but Tencent is very rich. Who knows?
Does it not? Because I heard Ubisoft, they came out and they said we're always looking at options.
Well, of course they do, especially these days. They were talking about their games, though.
I can't imagine the French government would allow Ubisoft to be bought. What is the term the Americans call company of national interest? Because they develop all that. A lot of game technology ends up in like the Department of Defense, which I don't know anything else besides American terminology. Whatever the Department of Defense is in France, or the DIA, or what is that, DARPA, the equivalent of DARPA as well. It's yeah.
You will learn that with enough money, the French government can be very
Hope,
flexible.
hopefully
Ask
not.
the guy at Alstom.
Yeah, hopefully not. I wouldn't want Tencent to buy anyone else anymore. Not like the Chinese government has a boatload of money anymore anyway. But yeah, on that topic, like Fallout 76 was not good at all. I played it for 25 hours or so with my brothers, and it's not good. I can see where people might enjoy it. Like, I was playing with my brothers, and it is just like compared to Fallout 4, like Fallout 4 for me was like a 85. Fallout 76 is like a 65. I had to give it a score of 100. And as far as redemptions goes, like it comes down to deep pockets, right? If you're behind $1 trillion company like Microsoft, like which is what Bethesda is behind, right? Is you can spend 3 years making a game allegedly better. But I think if you're going to a free to play model and you're hoping that this is going to have some legs, I think it's possible and you can do it with smaller numbers. I guess it just depends on the economics of the studio. Like, what is that break-even number? Is it 10,000 people? Is it 5,000 people? Because if you look on Steam, there are free-to-play games where 5,000 people is good enough for that studio. But is that going to be good enough for Concord? I don't know. I tend to think probably not. So, like, it's like one of the things I know, like looking at the analytics for our YouTube channel, for Google Trends as well, is one of the common trends over the last few years we've been doing the show together is free to play games, or cheap games is a term people always are searching for on YouTube. So there are loads of people, and again, I'll call back to Adam and mine's student situation where one of the most commonly played games here in Taiwan or in Asia are games that are free. That require you to spend $100 per month of Gash, which is like game money over here or something like that. Or and what do the kids play? They always talk about Minecraft and Roblox and stuff, and then their parents buy them Robux for Roblox, and so there's such a huge arena still, even in 2024, as sad as it is to say, for cheap games or free games, and that's what people want, that's what kids want. I think it's a very small age group that pays for games here and even around the world, I would say. And there's still very much the majority of people want free to play, want cheap games or $5 games or $10 games. I think Concord has some legs. Whether they have the money to do it is another story.
Look at Fortnite, it's free to play, but they make
They do,
lots the season
yes.
pass.
I think that's also Epic's, I shouldn't say Epic, it's Tencent's deep wallet who keeps funding Epic and their free games. My last story for today is limited run games. Limited run games is something for you guys, especially our age group, right? If you might have a little bit of extra money, you might be looking to decorate out your portable gaming shelf, like the one behind me over there. Or you just, oh my God, I didn't get to play X game and I want to buy a limited special edition version of it. So that's what limited run games do. They make special editions of games for companies who don't want to spend the money to do it, or sometimes companies say, "Hey, LRG, limited run games, can you make a special edition for the games, and we'll take a 10% cut, and you guys keep 90% of the profits, right?" I sent Adam a trailer for this game called Moonkin Stuff, and I don't remember the name of the game, but it's some famous cartoon or something. Maybe Antoine knows more about that. I feel like it was like a European name when I looked it up. But if you go look it up on YouTube, you'll find that there's a bunch of cartoons and videos about this particular character. This is a game on my Switch wish list. A very beautiful, very cool art style, relaxing, casual game. All the things I'm about these days. But that's not entirely the point of today's video. The point is I want to talk about is this idea of special editions, because when we were growing up, I don't remember in South Africa anyway. Antoine and Adam can add to this. I don't remember in the early 90s, like 1993, 1994, there were like a lot of special editions of games where you could get statues or other cool gear inside a box or something that might be maybe that might have started in America. But I remember in the early 2000s, I think when I first moved here, I think I bought like a metal box edition of the first Tomb Raider game, and I'm like, oh man, this is so pretty. I like it. It's not environmentally sustainable though, so that's something to consider because all that stuff ends up in the garbage landfill. But that being said, LRG offers, and not just for Switch, sure, right? While I'm giving you the Switch trailer, they offer PS5 limited editions. The prices, though, I will say, is start at about $35. I've seen limited editions go up to $300. So that's definitely something to take into account. Is it's not cheap for some games. Even the one I sent to Adam, it is $80, and you get a bunch of cool stuff. So that's nice. It is a pre-order as well, so very much similar to Kickstarter. The pre-orders end on Sunday for this game, and then you'll only get the game next year, probably about the end of February or March. So a lot of LRG stuff is like that. There is some stuff that's already been printed and made. You can buy and you'll get it like in 3 to 5 days if you live in the States, a little bit longer if you live outside of the world. So there's always games out there. The best way to keep an eye on things is basically visit the site. Their YouTube channel is not super up to date, social media as well. But basically, yeah, every month or 2 months or so, if you're looking to expand your special gaming collector's edition, go check out the site, see what they have to offer. Is there anything that you want? They're even doing old-fashioned, and Anton and Adam probably know this, like the old thick gray game cartridges. I forgot what console that is for. Yes, there are
The
Super
Super
Nintendo
Nintendo?
special editions of games. That there's one on their site. I saw that when I was looking, which looks. I would just buy the cartridge because it looks so pretty. That I would never play the game because I don't have a Super Nintendo. But yeah, if you're looking for stuff just to add to your man cave or your man shelf, in my question, or your man cupboard, and where Antoine has his stuff on top of the cupboard, right? LRG Limited Run Games has some really awesome things. And unlike some special editions offered by AAA companies, you actually get the game, which is always a bonus. Check out the website, buy some games. They're a great company. They're not even a large company, they're a small company. Support them and let me know what you think. If you've bought from them before, I bought one game from them before. And I've been kickstarting so many things these days that all my gaming budget has gone towards Kickstarter. So let me know what you think.
Antoine pointed out online that actually the original Nintendo also had large grade cartridges, so it could just be the regular Nintendo as well.
Is that squared or is that a bit round at the top?
Yeah, is
It's
it
like
long or is it
a
square?
gray, slightly bigger rectangle, and it goes down and it has that part where you plug it into the cartridge.
It's like
Must be the
it's a
NES.
shorter rectangle. That should be Super Nintendo. If it's
It
like
didn't look like a square.
closer to
Again,
a
this is
square,
just
it
from
should
an
be
online
the
picture,
original
so
Nintendo.
it didn't look like a
What?
square. It looked like a rectangle.
One or the other.
Yeah, no, I have a few collector's editions here. I have right here. We got Valkyria Chronicles 4 collector's edition. Obviously, I have the Final Fantasy 7 remake collector's edition. I didn't get Rebirth, and then I have the Persona 5 collector's edition Royal. So I have a few collector's edition. Some of them are more expensive than others. I think the Valkyria Chronicles one was maybe 100 something USD, but I think the Final Fantasy one was actually like 300 something. But it came with the motorcycle and the cloud.
That cloud statue
So
is awesome.
it is awesome. That's why I didn't get the Rebirth one, because the Sephiroth statue is, yeah, it's cool, but it's not that cool.
Very nice. And we actually blazed through 6 stories today super fast. You guys, any final thoughts you want to talk about?
Just as a reminder, if you missed last week's show, we changed our tune a little bit for the next 3 months. That's why you didn't see a long form video in nearly every day this week. We are doing one weekly quest, which is this show, right? Once a week. And after we still need to work on our calendar. So well, it's not completely set yet. But you will have a high quality long form video at least once a month and maybe some shorter ones after that as soon as we get settled on the calendar. But yes, that's where we are. So it's a bit of a transition for us at the moment. So please make sure to like, subscribe, share whatever you can to support us because it's a turn for a middle-aged middle-aged gaming channel, and we need all the support we can.
Antoine, what are you playing these days?
I was playing and I'm trying to finish
okay.
2 Point Compass simply because I wanted to have some relaxing management game before I attack PC Game Pass oblige. I have Ara History Untold to try out, like game, which I really want to try. And after that, of course, again, a Frostpunk 2, which must be really good and it's pre-downloaded and waiting for me to dig into.
How is the Project Zomboid?
It's going okay. Yeah, I haven't been able to really craft anything yet. I always die around my second day, but it's going. Having some fun, exploring the area. Was doing pretty well yesterday, and then went into a house, and I'm like, everything's fine. And I open a door, and there's 5 zombies on the other side, and killed me pretty quickly. But yeah, still enjoying it, and still enjoying Dead Space. Although I haven't been playing as much offline because I don't want to finish that game before the month is up. So I'm trying to, what's the word?
Space it out.
Yeah, I'm trying to stretch it as much as possible.
Restrain yourself.
Yeah, so I have to restrain myself. So I've been mostly playing Final Fantasy 14 Dawn Trail on my off time. So I do not understand Mojang Mahjong. I'm trying to learn it, and I'm like, this is not like Taiwanese Mahjong, and these rules make no sense to me. But
Antoine, can you play Mahjong?
There's a very basic Chinese rule, I would say. I know there's 100 rules, different rules. And of course, there's weekend mahjong at my neighbor nearly every weekend. If I really want to learn, I would, but I really don't want to.
yeah, Final Fantasy 14 does Japanese Mahjong or Richi Mahjong, which is different than Taiwanese Mahjong. Yeah, I'll be like, hey, I win. And then it's, you didn't win because this and this. And I'm looking around and I'm like, yeah, I don't understand. Could you like just stop the game for a second and explain to me specifically why I didn't win? Because I don't understand. So
I think when I was
playing
going to
Taiwanese
Chinese
Mahjong,
class here in Kaohsiung at the university, my teacher then he taught everybody, and I was the only one who couldn't understand it at all. So I, despite having lived in Taiwan for 16 years now, I cannot play mahjong at all. Don't understand it. Doesn't make any sense. Maybe I'd probably understand it now because my Chinese is better, but it doesn't make sense at all. Yeah, I'm playing. I've been playing Echoes. I've got back into playing Echoes of Wisdom because, as the guys know, my computer was in pieces on the weekend, and yeah, it was unfortunate because I bought a wonderful $200 motherboard, and I left it on my freaking table for 3 months, and then when I tried to swap out motherboards, it apparently was dead, as was my power supply. And so I had to spend $300 to replace everything. This is the downside of computing these days, is that there's no longer X570 motherboards, which basically means if you have a 5000 series Ryzen processor, you have to use a inferior chipset, or you basically have to do what Adam did, which is to get the latest 7000 series processor. Yeah, and then when I was on the street here in Gushing, a guy was trying to sell me on Intel. He was like, yeah, you know what, I don't sell any AMD, so just go to Intel and I'll charge you $1,000 for just a motherboard, a CPU, a power supply. I'm like, yeah, no, thank you, buddy. Intel sucks. I am Team Red, just not the Chinese red, the AMD red. I have to say that. No, freaking hell. The Chinese blockaded Taiwan for 24 hours yesterday and screwed everything up again. No, politics. No, we can't separate politics.
Don't want to end up with a Discord.
That's fine. We had some pro-Russian people jump on and say, you know what? We're liberating Ukraine from the Nazis. What? That doesn't happen. That's ridiculous. Because I deleted it. In the because comments? That's not true. That's freaking Russian.
Fair enough. Of course not. Let's take it off the show, though. That's not really video game related.
It's if someone invaded Taiwan, if you want to talk about politics, regardless of gaming and stuff, right? Like we live here, right? Of course, you can't separate it. It's like,
Of course.
imagine if the Russians continue going and they're knocking on the doors of France again. That would be terrible. So it's
Again, have the Russians ever invaded France?
No, never. That's the contrary. That's more like Napoleon went over there and got his ass kicked. That's why we don't really want to mention
all right.
that.
Good stuff. Adam, when is Slitterhead coming out?
Slitterhead, I believe it's November
3 weeks
8th.
roughly.
Let me double check that. But yeah, it's not until November. It would have been a perfect game for Halloween, but whatever.
That's terrible. Hopefully, it's not delayed.
But I'm super looking forward to it.
The trailer looked cool, but I'm like,
November 4th.
10 years ago, I'd play this kind of game,
November
not
8th.
anymore.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, no, I'm super looking forward to it, especially because with Dead Space, I am not playing straight through because I want it to last through October, right? October is the Halloween month. But with Slitterhead, I'm like, I'm finally going to get a game and I'm just going to be able to sit down and play it as much as I want. And if I finish it in 2 weeks, fine. And if I finish it in 5 weeks, fine. So it'll be nice to, because like I've been playing Zen the Zone Zero and I was trying to stretch that one out until October came because I didn't want to hop into anything else. So it's gonna feel good to hop into a game and be like, you know what? I don't have to worry about the stream. I can just play to my heart's content. So really looking forward to it.
All right, guys, thank you very much, Antoine, for staying awake, and Adam for waking up, and for me, well, I'm always awake anyway. As always, wonderful chatting with you guys. Wonderful to see what you guys like, what you guys don't like in terms of videos and short form content, and what you agree with. Keep commenting, keep watching videos. We have so much content on our channel. If you're looking for something specific, go back, check out the other videos. There are now time codes in all the weekly quests, so if you are missing out those long form videos, you can just click on the time codes and say, I want to check out about the Xbox event happening this week, or I want to check out about what happened to Hotline Miami because I'm Australian. So check those out. And then we will see you guys same time next week for more news, more games, and more stories. Thanks everyone for tuning in, and see you next week.
Yeah.